All right, I'm going to quickly. All right. And now in 3, 2, 1, we will start the intro. What's going on, everybody? Happy Easter to those who celebrate. I'm Jordan, joined by Kev and Brian. How you boys doing today?
Great. Doing real good.
Doing fantastic.
Yep.
So baseball is back. Major League Baseball is back. This is, officially. I know the Dodgers and Padres played last week in Korea, but it's officially back. All 30 teams. This episode or this podcast, which is sponsored by Beyond the Monster, by the way. I almost forgot to throw that in there. It's been a while since I've recorded, so bear with me for a minute. But this podcast is kind of an experiment. We're going to try and do lives on Sundays that are more MLB focused. But since this is the opening weekend for the Red Sox, this is going to remain a Red Sox podcast. For today, we're hyped up. Just split 2 games or split a 4-game series in Seattle. I feel like in very typical Red Sox fashion, you're pleased with the result, but you're pissed off about how it got there. A lot of frustration in the mix. But before I go on my own whole little spiel, Brian, I'm gonna get your thoughts on the series. First off, what were your reactions? What were you impressed by? What are you still kind of holding out on? What were you, what did you hate?
Yeah, I think the starting pitching, that was the big thing for me. I mean, that was a big question mark going in. It was like, are we going to have enough? Is this going to work? And I know it's early and, pitchers are maybe ahead of hitters, at this point, but I was really impressed with how everything worked. And I tried to make it through all the games, the extra inning game. I'm kind of like, okay, well, it's tied, they won't, and then I read everything the next day about the meltdown with the lefty and then, Abreu misplaying a ball. But I think if we're looking at stuff to complain about, pitching was going to be the thing. We were all going to be like, oh, that's it. They don't have the pitching. It's been other issues. It was Devers out a few games, or whatnot, and just, missing a few key hits. And then some of the umpiring, I think for me in this series, the balls and strikes, listen to the games on the radio, you get a really good take. And then I put the game on Nesson just to kind of see if everyone's on the same page. It seemed like that was a big issue for both teams as well. So.
Yeah, for sure. Umpiring, I think people league-wide would probably agree that umpiring just sucked and just all around in baseball this season, or so far this season. It's looked really bad. And the Red Sox Mariners series was not the exception. It was really bad, especially in game 2 of the series with Tristan Casas. Yeah, it was game 2. They lose 1-0.
Yeah.
Tristan Casas leads off the 9th. And I don't want to blame the umpire for them losing because first and foremost, they were horrible for about 6 2/3 innings at the plate.
Yeah.
They got some action in the late in the 7th, had some action in the 8th, and then the 9th, Casas comes up to lead off. He saw 6 pitches. Well, I guess pitch 6 on StatCast registered in the zone. So the first 5 pitches of his at bat, none of them were in the strike zone. He swung at none of them, but it was a 3-2 count. But yeah, so like it was not a fun at bat. The Red Sox ended up losing that game 1-0. But yeah, Kevin, what were your thoughts on the series before I throw one of the comments up there? We can talk about it.
Yeah, a little bit with the umpiring. I saw someone tweeted out. I think someone has stock. The umpires, as a union themselves, have stock in the technology to make challenges for balls and strikes. So maybe they're forcing the issue a little bit. Hey, listen, it's awesome that baseball's back. And we were pumping out episodes during spring training, but this is when the rubber meets the road, and you gotta 2-2, right? I'm trying not to mimic everything that Brian said because I think he absolutely nailed it. But Andrew Bailey, to me, in just 4 games, I was joking around with Jordan before the episode. It's like, can we put a pitching coach up for manager of the year? Because so far, what we've seen, Pivetta relying on other pitches than his fastball, as Jordan and I were talking about. Cutter looking more confident on the mound and showing emotion on the mound. And the bats are going to come. I mean, we didn't have Devers for two games. Game 3, yeah. I mean, it leaves a pit in your stomach in this series where it's like, are we back there again? But Jolie hasn't had it in a while. So I'm hoping Bernardino is going to be on a flight up to the team fairly quickly. So overall, we're 2-2, and like I said, the bats will come, but the pitching just stuck out to me. I mean, and the bullpen outside of Jolie was incredible as well. I mean, Jolie had his struggles, and unfortunately, that's kind of been his case since his tenure in Boston began. But the other guys in the bullpen really kind of held it down.
For sure. And before we can go and talk about Joely Rodriguez, I'm going to flash this comment because this happened in game 1 of the series.
Oh, I like it.
On opening day, Red Sox win that game. What was it? 6-4, I think was the final of that game, or 5. Yeah, 6-4. In the 9th inning, Jarren Duran is like 9 feet from home plate, just creeping down the line. And I think as the dust has kind of settled on that, play specifically, I understand why Duran didn't go when he did, like before the pitch delivered, because if he took off, I think Austin Voth was the pitcher. All he had to do was just throw a cookie cutter fastball down the middle, or just like lob in an eephus down the middle, and the stolen base wouldn't have happened. It would have been strike 3. It wouldn't have been like the run wouldn't have counted. He would have had to break a lot sooner than that because there's 2 strikes, obviously. But yeah, he got way too far down the line, was dancing. Casas is definitely fully expecting him to take home. And yeah, unfortunately, Casas, who had a rotten series, by the way, we'll get into that in a little bit as well, ended up striking out there. No harm, no foul. Sox ended up winning that game again 6-4 on opening day. We could go right into Joely and just kind of tear into him a little bit. Like it's not necessarily fun to crap on guys, especially this early into the season. I felt like last night Joely Rodriguez was put in kind of an impossible situation. I know he's on the team to face lefties, and the Mariners had, a chunk of lefties coming up in the 10th inning. But, you get into that situation and Kenley's unavailable because apparently Cora knew he was unavailable long before the game started. I feel like you, at that point, probably would have positioned the bullpen a little bit better to avoid having to use Joely in a save situation. I think if you trusted Justin Slayton enough for him to come in with the winning run at third base and 1 out with Julio Rodriguez at the plate, you probably trusted him enough to face the bottom of the Mariners order with a 2-run lead. And obviously they used him today in a jam as well, but we'll get into Slayton a little bit more in a bit. But Joely today, I thought he did his job, got absolutely screwed on a sinker on a 1-2 pitch to former Red Sox Luis Arias, who kind of was a double agent in this series. Really tried hard to help the Red Sox win all 4 games of the series.
Yeah.
He was a mess, but Joely, I thought, looked good today. His velocity's way down. That's going to be something that is something to monitor. It's been going down for his entire career. Really, it was like 96 on average in 2019, and now it's 89 to 90. Right. But yeah, it really does immediately put a kind of a pit in your stomach, wondering why Brendan Bernardino isn't here. The logistics behind it make sense to me. Like Joely had the opt-out that he triggered that forced the Red Sox to either put him on the roster or risk losing him. With Murphy getting hurt, Walter getting hurt, your lefty options come down to Joely, Brendan Bernardino, and Lucas Litke. And Jorge Benitez too, but I think he's been hurt over the last couple of years, so you may not want to rush him into the bigs. He hasn't played much in AAA. So your lefty depth is very thin. And you lose Joely, that's just 1 fewer body that you have at your disposal. Brendan Bernardino had options. I still would have gone with Bernardino because, 1, I drafted him in fantasy as a troll, but I would have loved to have had him on my team. But yeah, Joely definitely kind of forced their hand. Probably wouldn't have stuck around. Obviously triggered his opt-out. They would have probably released him otherwise. But yeah, you lose him through waivers, and then you only have Brendan Bernardino and Lucas Litke. And that honestly would have been worse because if Bernardino goes down, then you only have Lucas Litke. So it's more of a logistics on the roster type thing. I would have just gone the best player available, and that's Bernardino. But, to each his own. It only cost them big time in one game.
Jolie to me, and I kind of said it before. The velocity to me speaks volumes. Where he was in 2019 to where he is now, and his stuff isn't overly great. Where he's going to have to overpower some hitters. And unfortunately, when you watch him, it looks like there's something's a half second off, right? Like the pitch coming in, it looks a little bit flatter, a little bit more hittable. And Bernardino, yes, it is a kind of a configuration. We're playing Legos right now with the bullpen and Bernardino going to AAA. I guess at the time was the decision. But yeah, Jolie in that third game, oh man, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, I felt the same way, Jordan. I mean, it was kind of like, all right, I went back and looked at it and I'm like, what is going on here? Why is this? And then I kind of looked at the box score kind of like backwards and like trying to like, okay, well, this is what happened. And this is what happened. And like there was the ball hit to right field. And then there was like that one on the left field foul line. And then but the velocity, you're right. I mean, he threw today, I think they said on the radio, there was one pitch like at 86. And they were like, is it a fastball? Like, what is that? And they weren't really sure what the pitch actually was. And it's just a matter of time. But like you guys were saying, it's just a numbers game. Bernardino's the way to go. I think it was just because, they wanted the depth. And now that I don't know when that timeline has to pass and then you can maybe make a move, but they're going to have to do something long term. I think today, there was 3 lefties in a row and they brought him in. And then kind of that was their argument. And then I think he had to face, what was it, one extra hitter or no, what is it? I can't remember exactly the workflow, but it was like they were lights out. And then he came in and I think everybody, whether it was on Twitter or anybody's cell phones, I was at a restaurant, everybody's phone was like, oh shit. And I was like, what happened? Because I wasn't watching the game. And they're like, oh, they brought in the guy who blew it last night. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. And my daughter was like, what happened,
Yeah.
Dad? I was like, so, but I mean, he made it through it, but it's a kind of thing like the margin for error is so narrow in a bullpen. You can't have a guy like that in there long term. You just can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and hopefully for his sake, and for our sakes having to watch him, it's sort of like, because I thought he looked pretty good for most of spring training, had a couple of stinkers towards the end. Of course, when you're starting to face MLB talent, go
Yeah.
figure. But it sucks for a guy who, when your fastballs start registering on the Amica pitch zone as changeups,
Yeah.
because you're not letting it rip anymore. But yeah, Joely Rodriguez, I thought he looked good today. He got 2 quick outs and then got absolutely hoed by the umpire on a 1-2 pitch to Luis Arias. Ended up walking him, which is his fault because after that he threw 2 straight non-competitive pitches. So that's his fault. But then they took him out and went immediately to Justin Slayton again. Deja vu moment, but it is what it is. I can live with it in the early stages of the season, but if he's still stinking up the joint when we get through the middle to late part of April, you're gonna have to start having a serious conversation about whether or not you want him on the team long term. And yeah, his sinker did not once hit 90 miles an hour, maybe like 89 point, like we're rounding like 89.6, 89.7, but like it was not a good day for Joely in his velocity, but his command was much better besides the walk, and he should have had a clean inning, but got screwed by the umpire.
And I'm gonna keep pronouncing his name wrong, until he brings his stuff back. I'm gonna keep pronouncing it wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I apologize.
No, it's all good. Everyone's been spelling it wrong on Twitter all day, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the worst thing anybody in the Boston market has ever done, because I remember when the Patriots had N'Keal Harry, there was somebody that said he was going to call him Keneal, and he was going to flip the K in the end in his name and say until he starts catching the ball, he's Keneal Harry. So wouldn't shock. He's probably still calling him Keneal Harry, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, we'll get back into some more of the positives, because I honestly thought there were a lot of them. Offense not being one of them in the middle 2 games of the series. But the pitching staff as a whole was awesome. You take out Joely, and I think the pitching staff had a sub 2 ERA. for the series, which is awesome.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's the first series of the season. It could be kind of like when Cam Newton threw for 400 yards against Seattle. You find out that this Mariners team fucking sucks, and they can't hit the ball. So that could be something that we find out in like May when this ERA is mid fours and the Mariners have one of the worst offenses in baseball. But, you know, as far as passing the first test, I think they did a tremendous job, especially the rotation. Andrew Bailey has officially done miracles on me. And this, you know, maybe they figured something out. There was not a lot of fastballs thrown, but a lot of strikeouts, and more importantly, only one walk in the entire
Mhm.
rotation through 22 innings of work in this first series.
Yeah,
Right.
their first what was the stat that I was looking at was something like basically they don't throw four seamers at all, anybody. And
Mhm.
even Cutter Crawford, I thought like, okay, he's the guy that's just going to throw four seamers because I think it was like his best pitch all year. And even he had, I think the first couple innings, he threw like two in the first inning, like four in the second inning. It was wild, like how they've just radically changed things. And I don't know. I mean, I didn't realize how bad Bush was. I always thought he's okay. Maybe he's not the best pitching coach. Maybe he's just not great. He was awful. Or Bailey is like the second coming of like I don't know, the pitching genius or whatever you want to call him. But I
Yeah, I was
mean,
gonna say,
it's really night
can you
and day.
compare him to Christ on Easter?
Yeah, we might as well at this point. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah, right?
yeah, Nesson had a stat. This is their best starting pitcher ERA in the first series to start a year since 2018. So does
Oh,
that mean
fantastic.
anything? I don't know. Maybe it's way too early. Of course, you don't want to make a big deal. If you're in first place in your fantasy team right now, you're probably going to be in last place. So take everything
Yeah.
with a grain of salt. But I mean, that just the starting pitching to me. I still can't get over how good it was. Like I even like how much Red Sox Kool-Aid you want to drink. I don't think you could predict that the starting pitching would be this good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
no, the walks stand out to me. And Pavetta, right? Pavetta was when we were doing these little hypotheticals and preseason hot takes. I was Pavetta's going to go out and he's going to pitch 200 innings and he was going to kind of be a staple in this rotation. And Pavetta looked phenomenal. Only throwing what was it, Jordan, 27 fastballs, right?
It was, if you count his cutters, he threw 40, but he only
40.
threw 20.
Yeah.
He only threw 24 four-seam fastballs.
24
Yeah.
four-seam fastballs, and the lack of the obviously the lack of walks, which was a killer if you watch this team over the last 2 years. And Bush, just the amount of times that we watched that guy just walk from the dugout to the mound to the dugout to the mound. I mean, his Fitbit, he must have got his steps in every single day. And whenever you go out there, something horrific would happen, right? And Bailey just seems to be a guy who we know about the Bailey lab, right? That he kind of sets up and he works with, and he's been very, very focal on working with this core that he has. It doesn't sound like at least the minors did an episode, and it didn't sound like he was working with any of the minor league pitching talent. So Bailey's all in, and it shows. It meets the eye test right now. Yes, we're 4 games in, but as of right now, it's passing the eye test.
And Brad just sent in the group chat that the team ERA right now is sitting at 2.04. So
Yeah,
I'll take
pretty
that.
good.
yep,
Pretty
I
good.
love that.
You're gonna
I love that.
win. You're gonna be likely a better than a 500 team if you're pitching to a
Yeah,
204
yeah,
ERA for the full season.
yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
you never know. What does this say? Bush always reminded me of a Trex the way he half ran and half jogged out to the mound every game.
That's 100% right. That's
Yeah, that's
100%
true.
right. Oh
That is
yeah,
that is
awesome.
true. I agree 100% on David Bush, and it felt like every single time he came out, like you said, every single time he came out to the mound last year, you could expect the
Yeah.
least optimal outcome to happen. Like
Mhm.
especially heaven forbid he walked out to the mound with the bases loaded. I was expecting a
Oh,
grand slam. So then when a 3-run double got hit, I was ecstatic because it was one less run than I was expecting. It was great. It was great. It's all about managing expectations. But yeah, you see Andrew Bailey jogging out to the mound, and I'm like, this is about to be the most vile at bat I've ever seen a hitter take. It's gonna be 3 sweepers. They're gonna look stupid on all of them, especially if Greg Weisert's on the mound. That man is an
oh
absolute
yeah.
freak. That dude's a spin god. I absolutely love that so far. I mean, I know he had like a 4 something ERA with the Yankees last year. And I guess we'll kind of just segue into the bullpen that isn't Joely Rodriguez before we come back to the starting rotation. But Greg Weissert, I was not 100% convinced, even with his strong spring training, that he was, should have been on the opening day roster.
Mhm.
He deserved it on his performance, but I still would have gone with two lefties, and had Bernardino and Joely in the bullpen. But oh my God, has he made me look stupid for his first two outings today, especially. He had that 3-2 sweeper to Mitch Haniger that honestly that buckled my knees and I was sitting in a damn chair. Like, like that thing was nasty. He was a spin god. And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show that the Red Sox clearly, for better or for worse, because we all wanted the Montes or the Yamamotos of the world, and some people wanted the Snells of the world. The Red Sox had a type and they went after it. Guys that threw sweepers, guys that threw pretty good
Yeah.
fastballs who were like somewhere between 94 and 97. They didn't go after, other than Slayton, anybody that really threatens triple digits, but they had great breaking balls and lively fastballs. That was their type. And then Cooper Criswell, who I guess is just a spin god, but he throws like 83. But yeah, and so far so good. It's looked good. And, I guess if you can keep guys off balance with nasty sweepers and then kind of mix your fastball in, it's more of a show me pitch, but just so they respect it. Again, it's just the first series of the season, but the eye test has been passed pretty much with flying colors, save for a certain left-hander in the bullpen.
Yeah, Weiser was up there. Hopefully I didn't mispronounce his name as
No,
well.
you got it. You nailed it.
Um, throwing frisbees, like absolutely throwing frisbees, and I think the narrative that Breslow kind of gave off throughout this offseason was he made the comments of pitching, right? And he wanted to add specifically to starters. But I think as the market changed or, the pocketbook got a little bit tighter or whatever, there's definitely a type. I agree with that. There's 100%. They want guys on the mound, especially in the bullpen, with movement. They want movement, coming off the mound. And they kind of backdoored their way into some of these guys, and it was just frisbees up there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
pull up.
I
I'm
think
gonna pull up one of them real quick. But you can go ahead, Brian. I'm gonna pull up one of the
yeah,
one of the
I agree
Haniger.
with everything. I agree with everything that Kev said. It seems like they figured. I don't know if it's just they found something that works with the way the guys are trying to hit. They got something about. Did you hear? They have what they call a rocket slider. I guess they were talking about today.
Yeah,
I guess it's
yeah,
like it's
yeah, yeah,
almost like
yep.
a screwball kind of. I've never even heard about that, but it looks great, and I couldn't hit it, and it doesn't seem like anybody else can either. And then there was a couple times where was it Whitlock threw was it a slider, but they were calling it a cutter on the pitch track because they
Mhm.
couldn't track because I guess there's certain parameters for certain pitches, and they look at how it comes out of his hand and the speed, so it should be something, but it does something like different. Like so,
Hmm.
they the pitch track doesn't even know what's going on, and I can only imagine as a hitter or an opposing team trying to figure out how to hit that. It's like, okay, this guy throws 100, but it's straight. That's easy. The movement pitches, any professional athlete will tell you, it's the breaking balls that are hard to hit. Professional hitters,
Yeah.
they can hit a 102-mile-an-hour fastball if it's straight. But if there's any movement at all, there's guys in A ball. And once you get to Double A, if you can't hit breaking pitches, you're Sam Horn. You're done. That's just how that's been happening since the land before time. That's just how it is. And the Red Sox have really stumbled onto something. And I don't know if they're ahead of the curve or this is just Bailey's thing, and this is what he does with like guys like Gosmi's worked with guys with other guys who's take great guys and made them great. But something I want to talk about too, just not to get off topic, but what was the pitch that was thrown where Veritek his whole face lit up? What was that? Did he, somebody that was like a strikeout? Did you see that? And he just like
Yeah,
he's got a huge smile on his face. It was
I
one of
believe
those
I believe
calls where do
I believe it
you
was
remember what
Chris
that was?
Martin locking up. I think Chris Martin locked up Julio Rodriguez, and
That's what it was. Yeah, yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
what it was.
I've never seen
I'm
anybody that
gonna
excited about pitching before. It was just amazing to see like bullpen pitching that were that excited about bullpen pitching, where it's like, okay, yeah, they got a guy out or great strikeout, but I mean, I got excited about it too. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to watch the next bull. And it wasn't even like the closer. I mean, Martin, don't get me wrong, he has closer stuff and he's a great pitcher, but it was just amazing to see the Veritek get that excited about a bullpen pitcher. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely a good weekend, in my opinion, from the pitching staff. Again, I want to keep throwing that out there just so people don't mention that Joely Rodriguez was not good this weekend. So everyone but him passed with flying colors. And Chris Martin was tremendous as well in his couple of innings of work. I think he's now extended his scoreless appearance streak to 23, which means he's going to get rocked tomorrow in Oakland or Tuesday in Oakland whenever he pitches again, now that I've brought it up. But yeah, it's great. We went into the season thinking that this team would be able to score runs because they always find a way to. And regardless of, I mean, we're talking about the first series of the year and it's on the West Coast. It's a very weird opening to the season, and it's a long road trip as well before coming home for Baltimore, which is which is a good test, but not a fortuitous skill for the Red Sox to start the year. But yeah. The big thing for me, and I thought the real telltale for the Red Sox rotation entering the season was going to be not what they look like when they're on, but how they kind of battle when they're not, when they don't have their best stuff. Because I didn't think Garrett Whitlock looked, I mean, he had the strikeouts, but for the first few innings, he was getting very deep in counts, was having a hard time putting away hitters. But they gave him the lead in the top of the fourth on the Manuel Valdez 3-run home run. And then Whitlock had a 9-pitch fourth and a 9-pitch fifth. His day was done after that, but he also racked up 2 more strikeouts. So it wasn't just quick at bats because, guys were swinging away and getting out quickly. He was putting people away very quickly with a 3-run lead. And that's something that, as a starter, you're going to have to be able to do. Your team gives you a lead. You're going to have to go out there and shut them down. And I thought Bayo battled. I thought he looked like the worst pitcher of the 4 that we saw over the weekend, and he still gave up only 2 earned over 5. Cutter, I didn't think looked especially great for the first 2 or 3 innings last night, and he was just electric in the final 3 innings of his outing, 3 to 4 innings of his outing. So if that's going to be what, I mean, they're going to have bad outings at some point. It's baseball, but if that's what it's going to look like when they don't have their ace stuff, sign me up, man. Like really. If Bayo on a night that his command is dog shit and he's not getting any whiffs gets me 2 earned over 5, and he probably would have gone in the 6th inning if this were like late April and he's like fully built up. Again, sign me up. So yeah, and Pivetta was definitely the best of the bunch. That definitely goes without saying.
Yeah, Pivetta was the best out of the bunch, and I think if you look at any of the 4 outings, aside from Bayo, who you would want, to kind of tear up a little bit, being the ace of this staff. I don't know if we're going to put that in quotes or not, but they gave him the ball. So I think we would all take these outings if we're being honest, because the runs are going to come. Devers missed the middle 2 games of this series. I'm not worried about run production, with this lineup. It seems like, especially when they get home and some of these guys start peppering the ball. I know we're going to get into Casas a little bit. Didn't look especially, comfortable at the plate, kind of rolling that hand over. Massa rolled over a few as well. As far as the pitching goes, we got to be acceptable with the small sample size that we have, right? And this is what we're dealing with. And yes, it could turn out that the Mariners have an absolute dog shit lineup. We don't know, right? But what you saw over the last 4 games, it's fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. And we can talk about Casas because I've seen we got 2 straight comments mentioning Casas getting fed sliders like nobody's business. Last season, he saw breaking pitches 30.5% of the time, hit 233 against some of the 417 slug, which, I mean, he hammered fastballs, so you can live with bad, but some slug against breaking stuff. This year, entering today, he had seen 46 pitches and 31 of them were breaking balls. So
they got a game plan.
They got a game plan. That's going to be kind of test number 2. And I think that's another thing that kind of speaks to how development isn't always linear. Like the game, like he figured out how to hit major league quality fastballs and changeups and whatever last season. And he did so with authority in the second half. Now the book on him is he hammers the fastball. Let's see if he can hit the breaking ball. So just going to keep peppering him off speed and breaking pitches until he proves he can hit it. And this weekend he did not. I think he was 1 for 12 with a couple of walks. He was not very good. I know he had, a force out that drove in a run. I'm trying to get the stats. Oh, he was even worse than that. He was 1 for 15 1 for
15,
15 with 2 walks. So yeah, his OPS for the series, in case you were wondering, is a whopping 243. Great OPS for the for the season so far for Casas. But I think he'll figure it out. He's too talented a hitter to just be a dead red guy. Like he's not really. I mean, he's got to be able to read that opposing pitchers are not throwing him fastballs and be a little bit, not necessarily cheat for the slider, because then he will be exposed on, mid to high 90s velocity, but be a little, recognize it quicker out of the hand so he knows not to swing. And I'm still giving him a pass for the Duran one, because that was, one, a nasty pitch, and two, Duran was in his back pocket at the time the pitch was delivered. But yeah, he did not look good this series. He played some decent first base, which is nice. But yeah, I didn't think he was overly great at the plate. Didn't look very good at the plate. Looked uncomfortable.
Looked uncomfortable. Movement to him is. I mean, you just read off the stats, right? It seems like the league has a game plan, with him, or at least Seattle did. With the way he ended last year in the fantastic numbers that he put up, really post All-Star break. I'm hoping that he doesn't drag in the mud, too much, to start this year. Especially because the spring was pretty decent. He looked comfortable at first base. He made a couple good plays, but I mean, at the plate, he's got to be a staple. For the middle of the lineup, for him to be at the plate in the way that they configure guys around him, he's going to be put in a lot of positions to hopefully drive in some runs. So hopefully he can adjust to the breaking stuff. I mean, Brian talked about the breaking stuff, and either you can hit it or you can't. And I believe Casas is probably someone who can adjust and do that.
I also think, Jordan, too, that the quality of pitching that he faced with those guys for Seattle, their walk rates are like unhuman. So they're able to throw breaking. If you can throw breaking pitches for strikes, you go to Cooperstown. I mean, very few guys you can throw a breaking pitch, but it's like splitters in the dirt, or people going to chase them. But if you can throw those pitches, you're taught from. I mean, any level. If you see a ball moving at all and you're behind, you're ahead in the count, let it go. Hit the fastballs, because the fastballs are the easiest ones to hit. But those guys Seattle has, they can throw those pitches for breaking pitches. Or like in this series, we saw a lot of pitches thrown to Casas that were balls that were called strikes. And as a good a hitter as he's losing his mind, because he's such a, in the zone, a savant of a hitter. He's like, I know that was a ball. And then it gets happened again. And then when you're down 0-2, I don't care, if you're a Zen Buddhist, you're just frustrated. And then you just, the at-bat's almost over at 0-2. It's very hard to hit there to not give up on it once you're down 0-2. So there's a lot of times where it's like, that wasn't a strike, that wasn't a strike, and he just kind of like, the immaturity might set in just a little bit. He's like, what, screw this, the umpire's screwing me. I'll just get back my next at bat. And that's what it looked like a couple of at bats in this series too, where he was like, I'm getting screwed here. I know it's early, but it's just that's what I saw in his face, just like the expression. O'Neill had the same thing. There was a couple calls where O'Neill's there, and he just kind of looks at the guy, and he's like, was that low? And they go, no. He's like, well, okay, then where was it? So that's just what I saw.
Yeah, and Casas, I was just checking today because those stats I read off were entering play today. I didn't count how many pitches he saw, but he only saw one four-seam fastball in, I believe it was 4 plate appearances.
Sounds right.
His last plate appearance, he saw 6 pitches, 1 four-seam, 5 cutters. So I mean, he didn't get peppered with the slider, but same diff in today's game. Everyone's throwing a cutter or a slider that has ridiculous horizontal break, and you can touch 90 with it. So everything moving horizontally to Casas. And I think, obviously it's the first series of the season. And as high as we are on the rotation after watching them, we do have to temper our expectations and know that, after Oakland, if they get, for whatever reason, get absolutely torched, the staff ERA goes from just over 2 to over 5. But like Trevor Story and Tristan Casas and Masa Yoshida hit the cover off the ball, they're all pushing, OPSs of over 900. And it's like, whoa, we said everyone in the lineup sucked last week and the rotation was great. Now it's the other way around. So, we gotta temper expectations a little bit and not be so dramatic about our stances on players. Like I saw a lot of people talking shit about Masa last night and how terrible he was, but he entered the game 2 for 7 with a double and a walk. So like, I don't know what you want out of the guy. And
Yeah.
his OPS was like 850, and it was only 2 games, but like,
Right.
of course his numbers are crap. He had 2 good games and then a really, really, really bad one. And then he still obviously had the timely hit in the 10th that ended up being moot because Joe Ellie decided he wanted to suck.
Yeah.
Pretty much, plain and simple.
And listen, Massa, in that DH role, I believe, the burnout with him last year was real. I really do believe the burnout was real with Massa, and him being in the DH role, I think it's going to do wonders for him. I think that the more comfortable he becomes at the plate, like you said, 2 for 7 with what, a double coming into the game, and people are ripping this guy apart. We got to pump the brakes a little bit. It'll come. It'll come. Just be patient, and it's not like there's no room for error right now. There's what, 158 games left, so we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah,
Plenty of
I'd
time.
rather. I think a lot of residual anger from August of last year kind of crept into a lot
Yes.
of
Oh
people's
yeah.
opinions of players entering this season. So, like with Trevor Story, he had a little 0 for 11 after I thought a pretty decent opening game. I think he went 1 for 4 with a walk, had a couple of flyouts and a strikeout in the opener, and then went 0 for 11 with a lot of lazy fly balls. And then today he had a couple hits, but taking the temperature of some group chats I'm in and on Twitter last night, watching Trevor Story play, everyone was like, "Oh, great defense," but wow, this guy can't hit outside of cores. It's like it's the third
Hmm.
game of the year, and he just
Yeah.
tore the cover off the ball in Florida. And that's another thing as well. These guys have been playing in optimal weather conditions for the last month and a
Mhm.
half, and now and I don't want poo 50 degrees. I mean, I live on Cape Cod. I'd kill for 50 degrees every single day, but they're playing in 50 degrees as opposed to 75 to 80. And, it's a little chilly. It gets colder as the night goes on, as opposed to you get it, you creeping towards the high of the day from a temperature standpoint. Like, guys have to adjust with their bodies as well as, to facing big league pitching and then also playing every single day, which they're not necessarily doing in spring training. So
George, you
let's
didn't
just be
like
careful.
pitching in February in Emerson? You didn't think that was great? You didn't have a nice feel for all your pitches when you're getting lit up by Wentworth or something, You're like, "I don't understand. It worked in Florida."
I repressed so many memories from my collegiate career. The only thing I talk about is my ERA from college being 13.5. But my buddy
Yeah,
my
at least
buddy
it's not
was a big
99 or infinity. Yeah.
That's true. My buddy did have, I mean, Joel entering today was over 20, so
Yeah,
small
there you go.
baby steps are still steps.
That's right.
But my buddy from Emerson did say that my FIP was like 3.5. So, I sign me up. I'll learn the sweeper. Damn it. I'll learn the sweeper. I'll do it. My shoulder will be shot by the middle of April, but I'll learn the sweeper. Please get me out there. But yeah, let's just temper our expectations a little bit. Let's not be so
Yeah.
dramatic about our stances. I mean, I am more than willing to induct Andrew Bailey into the Baseball Hall of Fame right now, but that's also because he's got a track record of doing this. He did it with San
Yes.
Francisco. Um, but one thing that I think is going to be here to stay, regardless of how the top flight caliber pitching we've seen, whether or not that stays, is the walks. The Giants during Andrew Bailey's tenure were tied for the league lead in walk rate. They did not walk guys. So I think if the Red Sox are going to lose, they are going to get lit up in the zone. And that's just how it's going to happen. That's baseball. Sometimes you just don't have your best stuff. But what they can control is whether or not they throw strikes. And I think that's a big part of Andrew Bailey's philosophy. And I'm very excited to see how that kind of plays out over time. And I think ball four will definitely be a point of emphasis, which I think it was under Dave Bush. He just didn't, for whatever reason, didn't know how to articulate it, or he was too busy on the Stairmaster to to coach these guys. But
And Jordan, I like the fact that you said that Andrew Bailey has a body of work, right? We look at the two guys, or really three guys, Massa, Casas, and Trevor Story, that got the most hate on Sox Twitter over the last few days. And Massa came over last year. Casas, came up was became a full timer last year, and Trevor Story, just decided to have elbow surgery. So their body of work, if you're still thinking of Trevor Story from Coors Fields Day, it's like we're past that. Okay, so we got to hope that their body of work going forward is way better than it shows right now.
For sure. I think Story, like the days, I mean, we saw him in spring training tearing the cover off the ball, but he
Yeah.
also had like an average of 480 on balls in play. Like that's just not gonna that's not gonna translate into
Mm.
actual regular season success. I mean, what he can control is making contact, putting the ball in play, hitting it hard, and hitting for power. We haven't seen the power yet, but he is not. He struck out his first 2 times up today, so I think he's got now 5 strikeouts in his first 18 plate appearances, which is right around what it was when he was in Colorado. I think when he gets to Fenway, though, he'll start finally, peppering the ball off the monster. I mean, we're not asking Trevor Story to go out and be 2019 Trevor Story. We're not asking him to be an MVP candidate, but if he can be a league average to slightly above league average hitter with his defense at shortstop, he's going to be of tremendous value to this team, and especially the pitching staff, because you're going to be nibbling a lot more if you don't trust the guys behind you to defend their positions. And Trevor Story is, one of the best in the world at doing so.
Can you talk about, Jordan, how big a deal the defense has been just in this series alone? I think that's huge. Just, I mean, from
Yeah.
shortstop, the outfield defense, Casas is second half Casas defensively, he's not first half.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say black hole. The only issue maybe might be at second base. Hopefully that's going to be alleviated soon. But everything else looks a lot better than last year. That's huge for me.
Mhm.
Yeah, the only issue that they've had defensively was the misplay by Abreu in the 10th last night, which again can happen to anybody, can happen to the best
Right.
teams in the world, the best defenses
Yeah.
in the world. Like errors are going to happen. He just probably was getting ready to throw to third base. Ball
Mhm.
took a weird hop on him and it went through him. And it's I'm not excusing it. It's a play that you absolutely have to make. You're a major leaguer.
Mhm.
I would expect a high schooler to make that play. But
Mm.
he yeah, the defense looked a lot better for me over the course of the series. I know Pablo Reyes had an error too, but it was more of a hero ball error that
Yeah.
again also will happen. It was on a bunt play. Like it happens. Yeah, I mean the defense is night and day, at least so far. Looks better. I mean Trevor Story being at short instead of Mr. Kike Hernandez
Oh
is a
yeah.
big upgrade. But yeah, hopefully it's here to stay. Tyler O'Neill was great in right field on opening day. I know he's kind of played all over the place, or he played left
Mhm.
field the last 2 days.
Right.
But they're going to be a much better defensive club with Story at short and Mr. Cedon Rafaela in center field, who we have not talked about at all, by the way. We
I
should
know.
probably get into that.
Right.
Cedon Rafaela did not play today, but I thought had a very impressive
He was
first
in second
series.
base. He did play second, I think, Jordan, didn't
Oh,
he, at the
right.
end of the game?
He
Yes,
did
he
come in
came
the
in.
ninth inning. That's right.
Yep.
He did come in the ninth inning today for defensive purposes. In the series, though, he was. Let me pull it up real quick. Oops, I'm looking at 2023. I was wondering how he had 6 doubles in the series. I did not remember that.
He's good.
Damn, the man's good. Yeah, he was four
On
for
wheels.
12. He was 4 for 12. He had 2 singles, a double, a triple, an RBI. He did have 5 strikeouts, which is alarming, but uh, yeah, and he did not steal a base, and he did get caught stealing. But I thought he was electric. I mean, he made a diving catch in center field, I believe, last night.
Mhm.
Mhm.
His jumps on fly balls is tremendous. Um, I I can live with a guy striking out. It's a matter of what you're doing when you're not striking out. And I mean, he was four
Mhm.
for 12. That triple he had should have only been a
Yeah.
double, but the dude
Yeah.
was like,
That was
he
awesome.
was a little lackadaisical playing the ball off the wall, and Sadon was like, "Screw it, I'll take third base," and he
Yep.
did. And those kinds of plays we're used to seeing from Jaron Duran. And Duran didn't have a great series, but if they get both of those guys on at the
Oh
same
yeah.
time, it's going to be a nightmare for opposing teams to face because
Mhm.
Duran's gonna get on to start the game. They'll finally wipe the bases clear, whether the inning's over or Casas just ripped a 3-run homer, and then here's Cedon Rafaela, so we get to do it
Yeah.
again. That's fun. It's I was worried about having him come up too early. It wasn't a service time manipulation thing, but I thought he looked the part. This series, especially on defense, but the way he kind of carried himself at the plate, even with the strikeouts, I thought was pretty impressive.
The
Mhm.
confidence, in the field particularly, and like we said, the double that turned into a triple. He's going to take risks, and I like that. I like that out of a young player. He had a phenomenal jump on that ball that he made the diving catch and center on. He looks very very comfortable on whether it's defensively, offensively. He is going to strike out, and I kind of almost expect that a little bit. However, if we can limit, like Jordan was talking about, what are you doing when you're not striking? Yeah, there's the play right there. Just a great jump on the ball, willing to take that dive, willing to take that risk. The guy's he's got a little swag to him, and I like that. I like that. We have a team where Core said that if they were giving out trophies for vibes, we'd be up there, which is a funny quote, and hopefully it doesn't bite us in the butt, halfway through the season. But right now these guys are, they look like they're having fun, and that's a kid that looks like he's ready to have some fun, and he wants to show up to the moment.
Yeah, he's somebody that I think, the younger baseball fans are gonna see him do something memorable at a game
Yeah,
and then go
yeah,
buy a
yeah.
jersey. Like, they're like, "I play
Hmm.
basketball, I play football, but I went to the game with my dad today, and I saw, this guy who is maybe, a little taller than me do something unbelievable. Who is that guy? Where's he from? What's he do? I wanna play baseball now. Go buy me a glove." Like, he makes those type of plays that gets you excited about watching baseball, which can be hard for the casual fan. And I mean,
Yeah.
for the minor league guys, the people that do podcasts, they say, "Oh, he does that like all the time at shortstop, at center field, when he's hitting." And the whole thing is like, can he do that at the major league level? Because the pitching is better. All the players are better. Can he swing at pitches out of the strike zone and still get hits? Well, probably not because the talent's better. Well, he's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing it until, they send me down to the minors. They tell me I can't do it anymore. But, if there's a ball a foot off the plate and you get a guy on third, if you throw your bat at it and put it in right field, he's going to get probably at least a double, maybe a triple if you got some stiff out there in right field. It's just exciting to watch him play.
Yeah, there's a lot of swagger that comes with Cedar Rafaela, and he definitely carries that certain four-letter word that's always getting thrown around on Twitter. The man's got some aura to him. And yeah, like you said, he makes those kinds of plays and the style in which he plays in, and then also being an international player, like he's a guy that you want to latch onto and you want him to succeed whether you're a Red Sox fan or not.
Mhm.
um, I think he's going to be a tremendous player. I mean, everyone points to the stance and the swing, and it looks a lot like Mookie. And no,
Hmm.
nobody should expect him to be Mookie Betts because that's ridiculous. And we don't have to talk about his stats in LA this year because I'm gonna cry. Don't want to
Yeah,
do
no.
that. Um, but
So,
if he can be just the player that the book has been on him coming up from the minor leagues,
mhm.
even if he doesn't improve his swing decisions, if he's a slightly above league average hitter with elite defense, that is a that's a very valuable player to your organization. And he's somebody that, we talk about all the pre-arbitration extensions. He's a guy that if he has an impressive rookie season, I am on the
Lock
phone
him
with
up.
him nonstop and in
Oh
the
yeah,
offseason and getting him locked
yeah.
down long term
Mhm. Lock him
because
up.
that's the kind of player that you don't want to miss out on another elite caliber outfielder so soon. The wound is already still so far away from healing. Don't
And
do it
Vegas,
again.
by the way, not to cut, Vegas is catching on to Rafael. He opened the season at AL Rookie of the Year odds for plus 4,000. I believe the lowest I saw them drop was plus 1,700, which is still an extreme
Wow.
long shot, right? But to cut that in half, they're those bookmakers and whatever they do out in Vegas to get those odds and things like that, they're liking something about this kid.
Yeah.
17 plus 1,700 is insane, but it just might
Yes.
work. That
Yeah.
parlay is gonna crush
Yeah.
it, dude.
Absolutely.
Move
Absolutely. Keep
over
an eye
Wyatt
on it.
Langford. Yeah, seriously. I mean, we're talking about a guy with 20 plus homer power, 20 plus stolen base speed, and
Yeah.
elite defense. Like, and I became an anti-war, truther, which, um, you know, basically just meant that people were accurately pointing out that Masa Yoshida is not overly valuable because all he can do is hit. Um, but that's like a 6-win player if you're getting,
Mhm.
20 to 25 homers, 25-ish stolen bases, and elite defense in center field, which is, I believe, the most valuable position from a WAR standpoint. That and shortstop are the top two. I don't know which one has got the lead, but
And he
you
plays
got
both,
two guys.
so
Yeah, and he plays both. So
Yeah.
just in case you want to check me on that, he plays both. But
Yeah.
the Red Sox have two players that, 20 to 25 home runs, 20 to 25 steals, and elite defense at shortstop and center field. They had neither last year. Duvall was a good hitter. not a very good center fielder last season, and Kike Hernandez. My mom said not to say anything mean if I have nothing, or if I have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. But yeah, let's just say they upgraded
Yes.
defensively at both positions and offensively definitely at one of them.
Mhm.
So yeah, we can move on now and talk about, let's see, what have we not talked about yet? We can talk about, I mean, Devers hit the first home run of the season, which wasn't necessarily shocking. Everyone overthinks it, including myself. I said it was going to be Duran because I am an idiot and thought he would lead off the season with a homer. But I was,
And then O'Neal, 5 straight opening days,
oh, that's right.
right? Yeah, 5 straight opening days. I mean, he's listen, I mean, the guy doesn't miss the gym, right? He does not he doesn't miss working out. But he seems like a genuinely cool guy too, just kind of not really paying much attention to his career, and now him landing in Boston and kind of seeing the way that he operates and the way they pan to him in the dugout a little bit over the last 4 days. Aside from obviously him just being a freaking meathead, he's going up there with one thing in mind, and he wants to put the ball over the fence.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Yeah, a
play the
right-handed hitter
Tyler
who can
O'Neill.
play multiple positions. Yeah, a
Yeah,
right-handed
yeah, yeah.
hitter on the Red Sox who can play multiple positions in the outfield. Get me those all day because that was the whole thing. Like, oh, we need
Absolutely.
right-handed hitters. We need right-handed hitters, and he's got the right attitude. And I mean, I have no problem having him on the team.
I'm going to play the Nesson call of the home run so you can hear just how electric it was when he homered on opening day.
Got to go behind the jersey.
Oh, I got the wrong video, but whatever. I mean, that is the Tyler O'Neill home run on opening day. They give him 5 straight and set a record. So,
Very
just
cool.
tremendous.
Very cool.
Is this the better one? Yeah, it is. I got the better one that actually you can just feel how awkward the call is because the mic, Dave O'Brien's mic was off.
Time now to go behind the jersey.
Tyler O'Neill has just set a record.
Yeah.
Yeah, the awkward Mike being off and he's rounding like third base before Dave O'Brien says anything. That to me is just that's Nesson gold right there. But yeah, exciting nonetheless. It's a very, very cool stat, very cool thing to witness. And Oppo as well. I mean, yeah, just kind of flicked it and just muscled it out.
Yeah, can
At
we
least they
stop
got it.
trying to make him yeah, for sure. Can we please stop trying to make him a platoon bat though?
Yeah, no,
Like they did
no.
this a little bit with Renfroe in 2021. Tyler O'Neill is a guy who has a 35 or 34 home run season back in 2021.
Yep.
Or maybe it was 22, but I think it was 21. Yeah. He is a 34 home run season. You needed right-handed power. Let's just let him play every day. Like if he has a
Absolutely.
shitty day at the plate, he's also a pretty good outfielder. So, we like defense. We're leaving the crappy defense in 2023. Let's let him hit. And if he has a crappy day at the plate, hopefully he makes up for it with a nice play in the field. But I will not accept Tyler O'Neill as a platoon player. This man deserves to be in the lineup every single day. And he's played in every single game and he started 3 of them. But when he was not in the lineup yesterday, I almost fell to my knees in public and started crying. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jordan. I don't think he should be a platoon bat. I don't think he should be a platoon anything. To be honest with you, I think you want a right hand power bat. Half of the games played at Fenway Park. Can play every outfield position. Yeah, like Brian said, sign me up. Sign me up. He should be in the lineup every day.
Absolutely.
that he absolutely should be, at least most of the time. And I know he's got an injury history, but he's a guy that is going to, if this team isn't vying for a playoff spot, he will only be here until July. I want to watch him as much as humanly possible because I think
Yes.
he's a good player. And when he's right, he's what Duvall was last year, probably better than what Duvall was last season. So that's something that the Red Sox are going to need in their lineup, especially if Devers isn't playing like he wasn't last night. Not having Devers or O'Neill, the fact they scored is insane.
Insane. Yep. Insane.
Oh man. So we'll wrap this up with a little bit of looking ahead, unless I missed anything.
Jordan, just real quickly. What do you think of what's going on with Kelsey Jensen? Because the other day, like, he wasn't available, but then he was warming up today in the ninth inning. So is he a prima donna, or is he actually hurt? Like, what's going on? What's people that we don't know. So what's going on, Jordan? What do you hear?
I don't talk to anybody about the specifics of that, but like looking at Kenley, the elephant in the room that I think nobody wanted to address was that he came into camp and he looked considerably bigger than he left last season. I don't want to go out and call him fat, but he looks bigger, and I don't know how he got bigger. He could have been in the gym, but he battled injuries last season, and you'd think he's getting up there in age. You don't necessarily recover from injuries better as you get into your late 30s. You'd think he would have been, working his ass off to get his body right and be ready for the season. Did a lot of complaining in the offseason about how, he felt lied to last offseason. A big part of why he signed in Boston, other than the fact they were probably the only team that offered him $16 million a year, was because he was promised that they were going to be competitive, and they did not have the offseason that would emulate that kind of, that desire to compete in 2024. So to come into camp looking out of shape and be battling injuries all through spring training. I think he only made 3 appearances in spring training, make 1 appearance, and I thought he looked fine. His velocity was down, but I thought he looked good in the opener. 2 days later to be unavailable because you woke up with a stiff back. I mean, it happens, but if this is becoming a lingering thing, like, way to be a hypocrite, my guy. Like, I love Ken. And I absolutely think he's well within his right to feel lied to and want to be on a different team. But you got to at least put in the effort while you're still here. And again, I don't want to act like he didn't work hard, because he very well may have. I can just tell by what I saw in spring training. He looked bigger, battled injuries all camp, and he's already unavailable the 3rd game of the season in a save situation. And he was apparently was available today because he was warming up in the 9th with Slayton out there, which also we didn't talk about at all. We can talk about him after Kenley, but it rubs me the wrong way when you are one of the biggest talkers in the offseason about how this team sucks, and then you're a reason they lost because they couldn't use you in a save situation because you woke up, you slept funny. Like, you'd be better. Put a pillow under there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the trade rumors really, really rubbed Kenley the wrong way. I think there was we had about a 2 to almost 3 week stretch in the middle of the offseason where Kenley's name was being thrown out around a lot, as someone who was probably going to be moved, and you could just see it in his demeanor. I think I didn't know that he showed up to camp, looking slightly overweight and all things like that. But, the stiff back disease that that hits players after they're brought up in trade talks. If I had a nickel for that, I'd be a very rich man.
He'd be as wealthy as Josh Beckett, who used it a lot towards the end of his Red Sox career.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm on the injured list with a stiff back, but you bet your ass I'm getting 36 holes of golf in this weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Right. It's unbelievable. So I think the rumors. Yeah, the rumors. And listen, if it is I don't want to leave out the part where if he did feel like he was lied to and he was, then I don't want to dismiss that, right? But at the same time, I think he's he's bound for Cooperstown, right? I mean, he probably doesn't want to be brought up in trade rumors.
All he wants to do, all he's ever known is winning. So I think being a part of a team that missed the playoffs, not only missed the playoffs but came in last place, definitely already put him in a very sour taste in his mouth entering the offseason. So then when they're 2 starting pitching acquisitions were Cooper Criswell and Lucas Giolito, I'm sure he very much didn't love that. They trade Verdugo, they trade Chris Sale. Like those are two guys that were, I mean, your starting right fielder and your ace last year. Like there was definitely from an optic standpoint, a lot of validity to what was pissing him off. And I'm sure he wants out. I'm sure that the trade rumors weren't just, weren't a big surprise to him. I'm sure he probably was like, listen, I want to be on a winner. And if you don't intend on winning, please, I would appreciate it if you would get me on another team. And what bothers me here is because we've known this since the offseason that Kenley was at least unhappy to a degree. They shouldn't have been so stingy about a team eating his entire contract in order to trade him. You should have been able to find a way to be like, okay, we'll do 50-50 or we'll eat 10 mil. Like they ate 17 of Chris Sale's 27.
Yeah.
Like you're telling me you couldn't have eaten 10 of Kenley's 16 and put him on a winner and gotten like a somewhat decent prospect back. Again, and I don't want to, completely throw it away that there's a potential that Kenley busted his ass all off season and maybe it was just the new jerseys that made him look bigger than he actually is. So they're just not flattering. And, he just woke up feeling like shit yesterday and he told Cora ahead of time. I mean, like he didn't tell him during the game that he's like, I can't pitch. Like Cora, I'm sure had plenty of, lead time on that, but yeah, this is something they're going to have to deal with. And unless they go on a torrid pace in April and can somehow convince him that this team is legit and they go out and make a trade in July and they add as opposed to getting rid of him, this may be something we have to deal with until they decide to just bite the bullet and eat his contract and send him somewhere else.
Yep.
Sorry, I kind of rambled there. I got a little fired up. I was in a Twitter space last night and I was not happy with Kenley because I had to deal with Joelly's shit fest and then immediately talk about Kenley Jansen. So, but I will say this: if Jared Carabas is on Twitter, talking shit about you, then I feel like there's probably a little bit more to it than just, he's mad that they lost. Again, I don't want to put anything out there that's not true because I don't know anything. But if Carabas has a beef with you, there's probably a reason behind it. But what we did get to see because Kenley was unavailable last night, and we'll talk about this real quick, and then we'll preview a little bit of Oakland. We did get to see Justin Slayton, a very unfair opportunity for him last night. We will throw that completely out the window. That is entirely on Alex Cora and Joely Rodriguez and Kenley Jansen for waking up on the wrong side of the bed and his back hurting. Justin Slayton today though was awesome. I thought he looked great. Yeah. He had a hard line out against him from JP Crawford, but other than that, pretty weak contact, 18 pitches to get 7 outs. And he got his first big league punch out to end the game. He looked fantastic. And I've been talking for way too long. Somebody else shut me up.
Slayton looked fantastic. I'm not going to go into too much depth, but would you just say 18 pitches to get 7 outs? That's what you want. And, especially out of the back end of your bullpen, someone who's going to come in and get outs, get outs quickly. And, Justin Slayton, he looked great. I'm going to shut up there because I'm going to knock on wood and things like that because I don't want to jinx it, but he looked fantastic.
Yeah, impossible situation the other night, but it was great to see him kind of rebound and he's just kind of doing what all the other guys are doing basically in the bullpen outside of, one name that we don't want to mention again. But but no, it's really impressive. I mean, really weird journey with the whole Rule 5 thing. So I really hope things work out for him. But it seems like a pretty cool guy from what I've heard, and I just hope things keep going the way they do.
Yeah.
For sure. Today he was actually probably one of the only people that came close to his top pitch being a 4-seamer in the series. There's 6 sweepers, 5 4-seams, 4 cutters. He had 15 strikes on those. Let me count again. Wait, hold on. There's a few pitches that didn't register. I'm pretty sure he threw 18 pitches, but only 15 are showing up on Savant. But regardless, yeah. Three UFOs. Okay, so yeah, 18 pitches, 15 strikes, 7 outs, got a punch out. Came in a jam as well. If that pitch to Sebi Zavala is thrown down the chute and he hits a 3-run homer, suddenly it's a 5-4 game, and you have to put in my back hurts, Kenley Jansen, when he's still probably not feeling 100%, or you have to go to Campbell for the 3rd time in 4 days, or Martin for the 3rd time in 4 days, and he battled injuries all camp as well. But no, he got the fly out. J.P. Crawford hit one stiff to start the 8th, and then after that, it was just 5 very routine outs, weak contact, and then he just absolutely blew away. I believe it was Dylan Moore to end the game. So he looked impressive. And I'm eager to see him in a situation that is like a clean inning, like let's say the 6th of a game against Oakland, or hopefully the 7th. Hopefully the starters can get you through 6 against a terrible Oakland team, and you can give him the 7th inning and just see how he does. Even I mean, it's Oakland, like it's low leverage. They're terrible,
Yeah.
and if he sucks, well, we know a little bit more about him, and if he's great, we can do the Boston media thing and be like, well, it was Oakland.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
he's definitely intriguing. There was a lot of momentum on him exiting camp about not even just being an MLB quality reliever, being the best reliever in the Red Sox bullpen. Saw a few people throw that around. People with more than 7 followers. Like I don't have names specifically, but I saw a lot of momentum for Justin Slayton. So it was nice to see him have an opportunity to bounce back from a situation nobody would have succeeded in, and actually, kind of run with it and do well. So we'll finish with the last, 10 or so minutes of this talking about this next series with the Oakland Athletics. It's a 3-gamer. Yes, a 3-gamer.
3-gamer.
Starting tomorrow in Oakland with, I don't know who Boyle is. Who the hell is that? Joe Boyle. He looks kind of like an actor. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry to throw that out there, but
Yeah,
Tanner Houck going
he's
against Joe Boyle in the opener. We'll see if I wonder if Houck will keep this kind of streak going of quality and quality starting. I know not all these guys had quality starts of the 6 innings, 3 or less earned, but can he give you 5 or 6 innings of 2-run ball or better? It'd be curious to see if they can go through a full trip through the rotation doing that. We haven't seen that, I think, since 2018 either.
Right.
I think that could be applied to pretty much any season that the Red Sox have had, any 5-start stretch of the last 5 years. I feel like they haven't gone through a full trip through the rotation where I'm like genuinely impressed by what I saw out of every single person. And this is a big year for Houck too. Real make or break kind of season for him. He was another guy they approached about an extension in the offseason. Did not get anything down on him, but I think that's because they probably came at him from the standpoint of you're a reliever and he still thinks he can start. So we'll see.
And I'm really excited to see Tanner. I'm really excited to see Tanner tomorrow. And we forget that Tanner was having a relatively good year until he took a freaking comebacker off the face in New York last year. He looked much, much different than 2022. He looked like he was kind of hitting this groove, this upswing where it was like, okay, now this is the guy that we've been waiting for, right? Like this is the Tanner Houck that we have been waiting for. And then, unfortunately took that comebacker off the face in New York. So I'm really excited to see, what Tanner comes out with, what Bailey has worked with him on. Tanner's a guy who can, if that velo, I believe the velo has been up all spring as well. So this is, to me, looking at this 5 that we have as of right now, Tanner's someone that I'm really, really interested. So I'll be staying up and watching that game tomorrow night.
For sure.
Yeah,
and
I think Bailey's going to work great. Yeah, Bailey's a guy who work great with, a guy who throws Tanner type stuff. I know that when the Red Sox originally drafted Tanner, they tried to rehaul everything, his mechanics, everything, tried to make him throw 4-seam fastballs. He got lit up like crazy in the minors. And then they finally said, all right, go do what you do. And then he kind of, basically rocketed through the system until he got to the majors. And then he's, hit this wall because he doesn't have that third pitch. And I think that it seemed like in spring training, he kind of figured that a little bit. I know lefties he's always had a lot of trouble with. I was at the game when he got hit in the face, and I want to say the Red Sox scored like 10 runs in the first inning. And there was a lot of people who spent a lot of money behind me for Yankees fans that were really demoralized after the first inning. And they were just like, oh, man, this cost us like $300. This is bullshit. Oh, man. I'm like, oh, what are we talking about? We're having a great time. And I think in the 5th inning, yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. And then in the 5th inning, he got hit, and we're like, oh, shit. It was like the only bad thing in that game was him getting hit because everything else was like perfect. Guys were hitting home runs and doubles and triples and everything. But it always comes down to that third pitch and can he get lefties out? And if he ever figures that out, he's going to be great because he has so much natural movement on the ball. He throws two seamers, just kind of aims towards the plate, and it's going to go any which way. And I think if he can actually figure that out, and I mean, but nobody pitches 7-8 innings anymore at all. I think the Mariners, didn't they have 3 guys that threw 190 innings and the only team in baseball that had that, or something weird crazy stat? It was something where like nobody throws 200 innings anymore. So if he can give you 5 in under 3, people forget how we had openers. Like that's a huge upgrade from a guy who's going to pitch 1 inning and then Pavetta's going to come in, but because it's not the first inning, now he's nasty now because he's not a starter, blah, 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 blah. If you have 5 consistent starters who can hold the team to under 3 runs, oh my God, you have a chance to win just about every game. Like I go to 20 games a year, and after the first inning, whoever I'm with, whether it's my dad or my uncle or friends of mine, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we had the lead after the first inning? Like we heard that so much last year, and it just gets annoying. And then when you light a team up with the Yankees with 10 runs, it's like, oh, this feels great. And then to hear a bunch of Yankees fans cry behind you was like icing on the cake.
Yeah. To your point, only 15 pitchers last year in baseball logged 190 innings or more, and only 19 logged 185 or more, and only 25 logged 180 or more. So long gone are the days of these guys that are going out there and throwing 6 2/3 innings every single time on minimum. Those innings eaters are not necessarily as viewed as important. And I think it's because bullpens are so much better now than they were, 5-6 years ago. So you just want your stars to air it out, which unfortunately also comes with a lot more injuries. I think we're starting to see that.
That's why injuries are through the roof.
Yeah. You want your starters to maximize their stuff, get you through 5, and then hand it over to, a lot of these teams have stacked bullpens. But yeah, for Houck, the velocity was up in spring training. They used him as kind of like a bulk guy half the time in spring. So I was honestly starting to buy stock in Cooper Criswell as the 5 starter, not like because I wanted to, more out of like it's going to happen and Houck will be in the bullpen. But yeah, and this is why they went out and they got Chase Anderson too. So if Houck still can't, figure out that third trip through the order, or he can only give you 4 tomorrow, you got Chase Anderson out there. He could give you a couple of innings, 3 innings out of the pen, which will be great for the Red Sox. They're going to need those bulk innings because, again, Chris Murphy's hurt, and Brandon Walter also hurt down in AAA. So those bulk innings are going to come out of Chase Anderson if your starters can't give you at least 5. But so far, 4 for 4 on getting through 5 innings. They should have no problem dispatching the Oakland A's at least twice. I'm not demanding a sweep because I still think no matter how shitty the team is, sweeping even the worst team is difficult. But they own the pitching advantage in each game. We got Tanner Houck versus Joe Boyle, who I just learned looks like an actor. We have Brian Bayo on Tuesday against Alex Wood, who got rocked by Cleveland on opening day. Opening day starter Alex Wood in the year 2024, by the way. And then Nick Pivetta versus Ross Stripling, Ross Stripling in the year 2024. So they should sweep, but I mean, if you can go into Anaheim with a 4-3 record,
give me 3.
You're calling for the sweep.
I want all 3.
Fair enough. I'm not saying you're not within your right for that, but I win the series. Win the series. All you have to do is play 500 ball against great teams and win every series against a shitty one.
You're right.
And you are playing meaningful baseball in September. I agree with you. A sweep would be phenomenal, especially because I don't know who Joe Boyle is. He's gonna pitch 6 innings of 1-run ball tomorrow, and I don't even know who the fuck he is.
He's the next guest on the podcast,
right? Yeah, we're totally setting this up for this guy, for Boyle to just go out and just pitch. Pitch 7 innings, 1 hit ball, and we're all going to be like, I thought he was in One Tree Hill. Like, he looks like an actor. I don't know who is.
Let me see. Does Joe Boyle have a Twitter? I'm fully prepared to
IMDb.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I should check his IMDb account. But yeah, I definitely I will DM him shamelessly and apologize for not being familiar with his game.
He'll be a guest next week, Jordan. Watch, he'll be the new guest.
He will. Starting next week, Sundays are going to be MLB focused. That's something I should mention before we wrap it up. Starting next Sunday, they will be more MLB focused. We'll have our 2 shows during the week. The MLB show that'll be recorded Thursday, posted Friday, or recorded Friday, posted Saturday, depending on scheduling conflicts. And then our minor league show every week records Monday, posts Tuesday. So Sunday's going to be more MLB focused to kind of disrupt the flow a little bit. I feels like 3 episodes in a 7-day stretch getting posted is a little clunky. You sometimes can get, a little confused. You're hearing different voices all the time. Freaking Luis Castillo was hearing different voices through his head all day on opening day. But I will be hearing voices tomorrow when Joe Boyle is in the 5th inning without allowing a hit. But yeah, next week will be more MLB focused. We'll, recap, our favorite players for the week. You see how, who like our 3 stars. I'm just throwing out ideas. This is very experimental. And again, if this is something that isn't enjoyed by our audience or the people recording, obviously I don't want to force y'all to do shit you don't want to do. This is fucking terrible. But
Get me out of here.
We'll go back to 3 episodes. We'll go back to 3 episodes posted on Spotify a week. But again, before we wrap it up, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Go like, review, subscribe, do whatever. Tell us we suck. Tell us we're awesome. Any constructive criticism, by all means. And if you want to, get on your knees and pray to us and worship us, that's fine too. I'm not opposed to being told that we're great. Yeah, if you follow us on Twitter at Pesky Report, we're on Instagram as well at Pesky Report. Here on Twitch at, I think it's the Pesky Report, because I think Pesky Report was taken by somebody, asshole. But yeah, for Kev and Brian, I'm Jordan. Y'all have a great rest of your night, and we will see you next time. Peace out.